Hey, what's up? This is Matt with Wheel Talk Seattle.
Hey, and it got Colin right here.
Colin, and we got Seven with us also. You hit me up through Twitter. You found me on there, and you're here to talk about you're going on a bike tour from Seattle to San Francisco. But before we talk about that, you already gave us a tour of your bike, and you're here to tell us also about your app that you've got and your website.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Sprocket is the best bike marketplace on both mobile app stores, and we can be found at sprocket.bike or on the Play Store or on the App Store. We're also the first vet-proofed bike app, so people can enter their serial number and validate their bikes through Bike Index and get verified badges.
Oh, wow.
Nice. That's helpful.
Yeah, we're just making it better and better from there. We have people all over the world selling.
Excellent. And is it just bike parts or full frames or all of the above?
Bikes and bike parts.
Bikes and bike parts. Excellent.
Fantastic.
Cool. What about touring gear?
If it's a bike part, yeah. Somebody asked me this recently. There was somebody who wanted to sell a touring bike with touring gear, and I said just list a bike, and in the comments just write out whatever touring gear you're selling with it. That's perfectly fine.
Excellent.
All right.
Cool.
Sweet. What else? Wait. Not just the app, though. You also have a blog, too.
That's right, yeah. So also been running Sprocket Blog for 5 years, and that's on Instagram, on Tumblr, Facebook, Pinterest. And that's a daily blog, all my own content, and that's more exploring bicycle mechanics, weird bikes, the bike community, bike activism.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that you won't find on a lot of other bike photo blogs that deal with lycra cyclists and carbon fiber frames.
Yeah.
So if you want to see like a really cool tandem side-by-side or some really unusual bikes where you rode to pedal them,
Yeah.
come to my blog. You won't be disappointed.
Cool.
Excellent.
Will do.
Well, thanks for stopping by. Welcome to Seattle. It's a beautiful Seattle rainy day for us, so.
We had to take this party inside.
Yeah, we did.
Glad to be here.
Cool.
Yeah, and you got to keep pedaling no matter whether it's raining or not.
That's right.
Fact.
Especially, you especially have to. I could probably hop on a bus, but you're going to San Francisco.
Yeah, I gotta actually keep up the schedule to get there on time because I got like 3 weeks to make it. So
Okay. Why did you decide to choose Seattle to start?
I'm actually up here for work. So for my 9 to 6, one of our offices is up here. So I came up on a work trip by train, and now I'm just gonna take some vacation and bike back. And
Awesome.
That's a beautiful way to see the country. It's a cheap vacation.
Yeah.
And I get to hang out with guys like you.
Excellent. Well, yeah, again, thanks for coming by. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into bike touring and maybe your first tour and what that was like? And
Yeah, sure. So I got into cycling like many other people in the 2008 depression. I actually got into a car wreck where my car got totaled by somebody else. It wasn't my fault. And I decided to get a bike and see what that was like. And if cycling didn't work out for me, it's something that I really wanted to try. I could always buy my next car that I was planning to buy. And that was, over a decade ago, and I still haven't bought that next car.
cool.
And I kind of got into touring when I went down to LA and became a part of the co-op down in Los Angeles for bike repair. And they had a little club for touring. And they said, well, why don't we take the Surfliner up to San Luis Obispo and bike back 200 miles in one day? And I've never done a bike tour at that point. And I thought, this is a great idea. Let's do this. So, kind of push myself over the boundary and see what happens. So we took the Surfliner up. We all packed into one hotel room. So imagine like one hotel room and there's like 9 people and 8 bicycles.
Nice.
It was pretty...
You brought the bikes in?
Yeah. We were saving on cash.
Yeah.
And then we woke up in the sunrise and we all rode out, and they're all like steel vintage bikes, which is kind of cool. So you could like hear the shifters in the morning, like cresting the first hill. And we rode over 3 mountain ranges to get down to Santa Barbara. And at that point, I was out because I had a bike that was racing Trek with the wrong gearing. I think it had a 26 on the back.
Okay.
So I was like totally beat. And also like I've never done 100 miles at that point. And that was like on a 200 mile in a day thing.
Right.
So thankfully we had a SAG truck. So I went in there and just passed out and You know.
Good. Yeah, dude, those things come in handy, having some support behind you.
Yeah.
When you do
so,
that.
so a lot of the touring that I started to do after that was kind of like day tours, like just go from like maybe San Jose to Santa Cruz, camp, hang out at Santa Cruz, bike party, and then wake up in the morning, get a burrito, and then bike back over to San Jose.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, so what about it? Like, you said the challenge was it more challenging? Is that why you liked it more, or bike touring?
Well, it's a couple of different things. Like I also have done track and field and cross country running, and I always found cross country running to be more exciting because you get to explore your surroundings and like see what's changing. Mm-hmm. On the track, you're running around in the circle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not as much fun. So with cycling, I do like to explore. I do like to see the communities I'm coming through. I do like to kind of learn about where I am in the world and what's happening. And it's also like underrated how beautiful of a country this is. And a lot of people, will brag that they go across the ocean to visit Thailand or visit Europe or whatever. And that's great. And I'm sure there are exciting places there. But like, check out your backyard.
Yeah. I used to be one of those people. I hadn't left the West Coast before, and then I went over to Europe, and I went over to Asia, and when I got back, I'm like, I have never been on the East Coast or in the South or in the Midwest anywhere, and I had to make that happen. So I totally am there with you. Tour your own countries. Good start.
Nice. Yeah, we started bike packing probably 4 or 5 years ago, and that was kind of it. I've done backpacking before, I've done camping before, but it's like let's take the bikes a lot faster.
Yeah,
and neither of us have owned a car since we've lived here in Seattle, and rode around everywhere. And it's like, let's just make this happen. Jump on a ferry, you get into the woods, and you can find somewhere pretty remote and under, 50 miles.
Yeah.
And where have you both toured? Has it been mostly on the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, exclusively.
Yep.
in the bike touring world, yeah. But something I really like about it too is that you're kind of like doing it all on your own. I don't want to be like that person who says I only do shit on my own, but it is an exciting feeling to actually pack your own gears. If something goes wrong, you got to take care of that shit yourself. Set up your own camp. And
there's a kind of like you're the master of your own destiny. Like if something breaks down or if you get totally effed, your brakes don't work, that's because you didn't check your brakes, and that's why they don't work.
Yeah.
It's not like, and another thing is like I built my own bike.
Right.
Which I know you also built your own bike. So it feels kind of special, when you're cresting that zillionth hill heading into quartzite, and it feels like you're on Mars over there because the rocks are red and the sky is really different. And you're like, I got here under my own power. On a thing that I built myself that I'm totally responsible for maintaining.
Right. The only person you're accountable to is yourself. And you don't want to leave yourself stranded in the middle of nowhere.
That is...
Yeah. I mean, it goes against survival instincts, but it's also a nice thing to do.
But that's the part of the rabbit hole. I love learning about how to build a bike or how bikes work, and then, talking to other people that do this thing, and it's all very possible. I mean, it's fun.
Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think is kind of underappreciated is, like that concept of like embracing failure and like growing stronger through it, but also kind of the concept of strengthening yourself through like adversity, like by throwing yourself into an unfamiliar situation, a little bit of a difficult situation, and rising to the challenge and overcoming it, you kind of build yourself to be stronger in the future. So like, okay, I've biked from San Francisco to Tucson over the course of like a month. And now if I have to do software or I have to deal with somebody on a project in an office space that I don't like or whatever, it's easy, right? Because it's never going to be as hard as doing this like huge bike tour.
It's true.
Yeah, Matt and I were kind of talking over breakfast this morning, and at my first solo bike touring adventure, I went out on Christmas Day to, I don't know, it was a lot like today. It was, but maybe 10 degrees colder, and it's like, I'm looking back on that, I'm like, well, we can do a podcast. This is nothing. I rode my bike 30 miles in the rain uphill, flat tires, all of those, none of that matters.
Right. You could just take the trail from your house to here.
Yeah.
But there you were like on a ferry boat. You were
out in the middle of nowhere on Christmas Day where nothing's. First thing I did was get a flat tire, and thankfully there was a bike shop open nearby. But it was, I don't know. It's kind of surreal. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. makes days like today's a little easier.
So tell us a little bit about your route from Seattle.
I'm going to be heading down to Portland. I'm gonna
Okay.
maybe consider spending a day there because that's kind of a special city.
Yes, it is.
Full of artists.
Yes, it
like
is.
myself. And then I'm going to head up to Columbia to Astoria.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, just hug the coast
Yeah.
all the way down. Because I see there's a huge mountain range. I've heard there's maybe snow on it now already.
Oh, yeah.
And that's just not pain I need in my life right now.
Yeah. No. Stay on the 101.
Yeah.
Highway? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Cool. Yeah, I've told that's beautiful out there with all the being on the. You're basically on the ocean like the whole time going down the 101.
Yeah. I just talked to somebody in San Jose before I got on Amtrak to head up here who just did a world tour, like visited a whole ton of countries. And he was like, bar none, Pacific Northwest was the best.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. In the whole world. Well, that he rode.
Well, he was like, the infrastructure is good.
Yeah.
People are friendly. And you got like campsites like every 30 miles with hot showers.
All right, that's true.
Excellent.
We're pretty cool.
And you'll be blogging about this whole time too, right?
That's right. So
Yes.
on Sprocket Blog and on Stories.
Excellent.
Sprocket Blog.
Sweet. So when you're touring, what's like one thing that you like to have, like comfort wise?
Comfort.
Something you don't need, but you like. I mean, you showed us your bottle of wine. Is there anything else?
Comfort wise, I just think my smartphone, right? Like
Yeah.
we're all a little bit cyborgs in that we have smartphones and we
Yeah.
can access the internet at any time.
Yeah.
But there was one time when I remember I was getting close to my destination in Arizona and I was having a particularly hard day. So I just turned on music and I just
Nice.
blasted it out of my phone. And I had my phone in the little bag thing on my handlebars so I could
Okay.
hear it really well. And I
Yeah.
had it plugged into my solar panel.
Perfect.
So I had the Arizona sun providing music.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Right.
That's the way to do it.
Yep. That is a little luxury for sure to have a solar panel and your music going and everything. But I mean, it makes a difference, I would say.
Okay, now I've got a follow-up question. I'm a musician. What kind of music do you ride to?
Electronic music.
Yeah.
Daft Punk and shit.
Nice.
Right. Right.
Keep that cadence up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the tempo.
Yep. Really. Sometimes they do hardcore, like gabber style rave.
The only thing I'm missing is one of those bike party huge speakers
Oh,
with
yeah.
a nice sub.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah, we
yeah.
just started. There's a bike disco thing that's getting started here in Seattle, and
Oh, right on.
the ride leader is creating little FM transmitters so that we can link up via. Yeah, you just plug it into the auxiliary in and all
Yeah,
playing the same thing.
That's a fascinating area to discuss too because there's apparently bike parties popping up in cities all over the planet.
Cool.
And I've even talked to people in Canada and I've talked to people in Mexico and other countries that have these now.
Nice.
And all these bike parties are all just figuring out that tech. So like some of them are figuring out how to keep like bikes in sync.
Uh-huh.
Some of them are figuring out like San Francisco bike party has a neon green flag on a neon pole and everyone's just like follow the neon flag, you know,
Yeah.
that's like the ride lead.
That is awesome.
And every bike party like figures some little piece of this out, and then you see it kind of start to appear at other bike parties.
Definitely.
And in the Bay Area, it's kind of special because we have three. So we have San Francisco on Fridays, we have East Bay on second Fridays, San Francisco on first Fridays, and San Jose, which is by far the largest, on third Fridays. So
Wow.
every Friday you can be at a different bike party, and because they're so far away, they have their own little ways of doing things and their own little ideas that are fermenting.
That's excellent.
Nice. Wow.
About how many riders do they show up for? You said San Jose is biggest.
Yeah, San Jose, it's gotten a little smaller because it's gotten so big it's broken up into other regular rides.
Oh, wow.
At one point, I think it was somewhere nearing like 3,000.
What?
Wow.
So I think it was the largest organized monthly bike ride in the state of California.
That is great news.
Probably on the whole West Coast.
Possibly, yeah. Now it's down to like I think it's around 2,000 or 1,500. But it's still, I guarantee you, if you're in it, you usually don't see where the start of it is or the end of it is. And
Wow.
there's another, like the thing is, San Jose Bike Party is so well known in San Jose that like people will come out and wave. And there's another thing about like yelling bike party. And so like if somebody yells bike party, you're supposed to, if you hear it, also yell bike party. So whenever somebody yells it just randomly, you just hear like 100 people yell it back.
Yeah.
But then like people will walk out of the houses with their kids, and their kids will yell like bike party, and you'll see like 100 adults yelling back at the kid, and the kids just go apeshit. They love it.
That is so cool. Whoa, that's like Colin return, some community. That's almost like activism. It's literally like going down and like, you know, chanting in protest. But that's like creating a bike party.
Yeah. And people ask me all the time, like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to a bike party. Is it like a bunch of maniacs or like what is this?
Yeah.
And there's actually critical mass, which is like fuck you cars.
Right.
Yep.
And there's bike party, which is building community through cycling. It's a very different kind of mindset.
Yeah. Just enjoy it. Don't even think about the cars when you're on the bike party.
Yeah, no, it's great. I've met so many members of my community, like in San Jose or San Francisco, to the point of where I've taken people to like bike party, and before you even rolling up to it, I'm meeting people who I know. And even after the day, the next day, we're having breakfast, and like I knew the waiter because I knew him from bike party. So I just like feel like I'm the man on the town because like I just know random people on the street.
Right, just random folks. That's who cyclists are. They're just random folks too.
Yeah.
Now, are you riding as your so you don't own a car in where you live in the Bay Area, correct?
That is correct.
Exclusively bicycle. Do you meet a lot of people doing that, or how do people get to bike party?
In the Bay Area, the transportation's pretty good.
Cool.
I mean, it could always be better.
Right.
We're always bitching about it. But there is BART, so you can get around from East Bay to San Francisco, and you can get most of the way down to San Jose. There's also Caltrain that goes down the peninsula from San Francisco to San Jose. So how do you get to it? You just get on the train if you're far away.
There was something that interested me about like the critical mass movements and things where people would drive their cars with their bikes to the bike ride thing. And
I've seen that too.
Okay.
But I mean, I think there's kind of a principle from Burning Man. It's kind of like an all-accepting community. Yes. So I don't think people generally care if you get there with your car and your bike, or you bike there, or you take public transit to get there.
Nice. That's an excellent point. I mean, we talk about critical mass on the podcast a few times, and we trying to think about how do we get numbers up? But like you said, it's like a fuck you cars thing, and there's a lot of really nice people out here that don't want to fuck you cars. How do we include them and make it accessible to all ages and abilities without making it seem too fluffy, I guess is the best way to put that. It's
I think that's something that the bike disco people are doing, which is why I think they're attracting a bunch more people than the critical mass here in Seattle can do. It's because it's just about that. It's not about like making a statement. It's just about going out having fun.
Well, I think there's another subtle nuance that's important to kind of understand. With critical mass, for example, in San Francisco, there was a story a few years back where some douchebag took his U-lock because some car was harassing him, and he threw it through their windshield. And that was a story that was repeated, like that I heard back and forth, and when you actually talk to the people that ride critical mass regularly, they not only have ostracized him, but they also didn't like that he did that, right? Because it gave them a bad reputation.
Right.
So the bicycle is actually like a vehicle of freedom. It's a vehicle of independence. And what happens is people show up from all different stripes, and they can choose independently to be assholes on a ride or not. But that's actually part of the point, is that you welcome everybody, and you don't have as much control over everybody as if, everybody showed up to like a car party or something.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think that's like the rumors around Seattle too, is why critical mass kind of strafed off, is that there's another group that kind of went more hardcore, and then and there was like some people in the critical mass group that were kind of making it seem like I don't know, they were just being assholes on the road, kind of. So yeah, I mean that's just not as inviting.
Yeah, our the critical mass numbers are like 20 or less.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to say the least, but I think that big part of the reputation is. Yeah.
But can we talk about your infrastructure and your excellent numbers of cyclists that I've noticed?
Yes. Those are, what was it, 1 million people on the Fremont Bridge or something like that? Did you read that story?
Yeah, and it's only October, like 1,600,000 cyclist trips to go over this
Wow.
one bridge here,
Mhm.
and
Nice.
that's the fastest.
So
it's
people
ever
do
made-
ride their
made
bike
it.
here, despite what critical mass would say.
Right. Yeah. It's just they're not riding in our group, which I
Right.
mean, fine.
I've really dug like some of the infrastructure. Like there are some streets that have protected two-directional like bike paths
Yes.
right on the street.
Yes.
And it's not like a few places. And like Second Street and
Mhm.
Broadway cut all the way through town, so it
Mhm.
makes it really easy. The one con is there aren't signs. So the first time I was here, I
Right.
didn't find it. So I biked on some streets that I was like, oh, biking in Seattle sucks. But like I didn't know there were streets parallel to me that were awesome.
It's very piecemeal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then, like, I got north, you know, the lake, like north of the Space Needle. Like on the other side is Gastown and like Fremont Brewing.
Yes.
So
yes.
the path around that lake was like wonderful and like,
Yes.
just everything. So, like, when I think about San Francisco infrastructure, San Francisco isn't quite there where you guys are.
Interesting. The opportunity here is none of that connects to each other. there's little pockets of greatness, and then you'll be in this nice protected bike lane, and then be dumped into a share with traffic going 30 miles an hour.
I experienced that this morning.
Not pleasant.
Yeah.
No.
So, I mean, there's something. I don't know where I was going with that, but yes.
We are pretty proud of our trails and going outdoors and stuff like that. And in fact, that Second Avenue you were talking about, I mean, every like 3 or 4 months, it gets like another couple blocks added onto it.
Nice.
And at least the cycling community I see on Twitter or Facebook or something like that, they love that. They love it. I don't know. It just gets posted every time there's an update. Oh, they're painting now. Oh, we see painting on the ground. We are very, very excited about this.
But I think in general, if you have the infrastructure, the people will come, and it seems like
Absolutely.
that's working out, and then that's an opportunity to have even more impact and even more community outreach with government and more kind of higher level community thinking about like what the bicycle means in Seattle. For us down in the Bay Area, it's still very car centric in places, and it makes it so that like if there is a new bike lane getting put together and there is a city hall meeting about it, that we do sometimes see like more difficulty in getting folks out because they're still like, oh, there's a car, I can still drive my car. Most people I know still drive cars. Why would I do this thing?
Yeah.
Do you do any do you attend those types of meetings? Do you like kind of activist? Do you like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I also I use my blog as a platform to highlight those, to get more people into them. So like there was a recent very successful city hall action to make Market Street, which is the main and the highest fidelity corridor in San Francisco, car free. And I saw that was happening, and so for the last couple of weeks, I've been posting stories on my blog to my 5,000 followers saying it's going to be on this day, go show up, do your shit,
Yeah.
it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
People actually showed up, and a lot of it wasn't thanks to me, a lot of it was actually the San Francisco Bike Coalition mobilizing, and they got it passed. So fucking
It's going to be car free market.
Main Street in one of the most important cities in the world is going to be getting rid of cars.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's high five us all.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Way to go.
Right. So you
Go San Fran.
you just got to show up to your government shit, and you just got to find out about it. And one of the ways you find out about it is through grassroots blogs like yours.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
yours too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks all around.
We're all in this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, okay, since you are involved in that stuff, how do you think framing bike lanes is like most helpful for people to understand?
Can you elaborate on that?
Like, how do you convince people to do bike lanes? Like, if you're going to talk about why bike lanes are important, like, where do you start with?
Well, I mean, they're obviously important from the standpoint of, at least in California, bicycles being vehicles on the same level as cars.
Okay.
So it's like, not only are you on the same level as a motorized vehicle, but you also have a right to bike in the state of California, and to drive, you only have a privilege. So because you have a privilege, you have to apply for and receive a license.
Hmm.
So it's the duty of the government to provide infrastructure so that we as citizens who have the right to bike on this infrastructure don't get killed.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous when, like, I remember, let's see now, almost a decade ago, I used to race 30-mile-an-hour traffic to get to work in San Jose. And it was kind of ludicrous to think about it now because there's nice green bike lanes there and nobody remembers this. But you wake up some days and you're like, am I going to make it to work alive? You know? Am I going to make it to the CVS to pick up a medical prescription and come back home?
Right. So it's a little bit, it's like preserving your own like safety and health for another reason to do that.
Yeah, and a lot of it isn't like we like to think, because we're men in our 20s and 30s, like how we would like to see bike infrastructure and why we would like it, but actually a lot of it is families with kids.
Yeah, definitely.
So like if you think about infrastructure, you should think about a parent with a kid on board. What would they need to be safe?
Yeah, totally.
Or like if they, like you mentioned, if you have infrastructure that doesn't connect with other infrastructure in Seattle, would that parent feel safe if their bike lane ended, turned into a Sharrow in a 45-mile-an-hour street, right? Or they turned in the wrong street, and now they're like what I like to say always in Los Angeles, it's a cement wall with no bike lane or Sharrow, and now you have 45-mile car behind you.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like that you framed it as privileges versus rights, and something that I see happening when I'm on the road is I feel like an obstacle or not a target necessarily because people are pretty nice. But I try and engage with people. It's like, well, why did you do this? Why are you passing so close? Or, well, I just didn't see them. I don't see bicycles. They didn't have their lights on. They were wearing all black. You know, any excuses that they can come up with to say that I was in their way. And you're impeding the flow of traffic, or any number of things that,
There's a very strong narrative, right?
Yes.
And let's be honest, a lot of it is pushed by the car industry.
Absolutely.
But I think we can work through that.
Yeah. Everything okay over there, Matthew?
Oh yeah, our battery just
no
died.
worries.
Battery change.
Well, we're just about to the half an hour mark, I think. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about where they can find the Sprocket Marketplace and blog?
Yeah. So if you go on Google Play or the App Store, just search Sprocket, and the spelling is Sprocket. Sprocket, just like it sounds, and just look around for a green app icon with a white gear, and that'll be us. And if you
on the shirt, right?
Yeah, just like on the shirt. And if you don't want to do that, you can also punch in sprocket.bike on any web browser, and there'll be buttons to take you to the correct app store.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for coming by. Great to see you. Great to hear all about what you're doing. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. This was wonderful.
Any final thoughts?
No, man, I'm just you're inspiring me here. Just taking kind of the bike as the freedom kind of a thing, and just really moving with that. And you making a spot for people to sell it. So I was fascinated that this is like the first like bike selling and like purchasing app.
That's right. I think it's a way to make a little extra money. If you have a bike sitting in the garage, or you have one too many bikes, or whatever it is, it's a way to get your replacement bike if your bike gets stolen or wrecked. But more importantly, it's a mission for me to get more butts into saddles. And for a lot of people, they just don't know where to start, right? So they don't have that bike friend, or they have that bike friend but they don't know what to look for, or they know what to look for but they're not sure if they can get a bike within their price range, because the bikes they see are like $3,000 carbon fiber frames or whatever. So what my mission is to connect you with somebody in your community who has a bike for sale at a good deal. And if I can do that, I can get people that would have quit otherwise before they even took their first pedal stroke and get them on the bike. And I know that once I get them on the bike, they'll fall in love with cycling because it's so addictive.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's such a mind bender, that
reducing barriers. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna be on like a a whole outer body experience on this ride down there. How many miles again, and how long is this going to take you?
It's going to be 1,000 miles, roughly. It's going to take me, last time it took me like 23 days, so it's going to take me about 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
3 weeks and change.
Okay. You've done this route before?
I haven't done this route before. I've done a similar length ride down from San Francisco to Tucson in Arizona.
Okay.
Which went through California, the Central Valley, Los Angeles, which is a mega city, the Mojave Desert, out to Arizona.
Yeah.
It's great.
Cool. Oh, gorgeous. All right. I'm super jealous. We really wish you luck, and we'll be following you and watching you where you're at along the route.
You can follow me on Sprocket Blog on Instagram, and I'll also be posting stories. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you, Seven, so much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Some dude bought it and was sitting on it. And I had to buy it from him. And he knew someone in the domain org because he bought it before it became publicly available.
Right.
So it's like, what the shit. And he was like some guy that's in Texas that makes organs, the like church instruments.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I'll like sell it to you for 10 grand. I'm like, dude, I don't have 10 grand. This app doesn't like.
Yes, for $10,000.
Yeah. So I negotiated down and down and down eventually to like practically nothing, and then got it.
Nice. Just for the name. Is that right?
For the URL, sprocket.bike.
Oh, really? Somebody got that already?
Yeah.
We have wheeltalkseattle.com.
That's good. Very specific.
Matthew, you're on.